Hey, well, we're pleased to once again be joined by our buddy Trey Wallace. Of course, you know him in covering the SEC beat for a long time now. He's a senior SEC reporter for Outkick, and you can give him a follow at Trey Wallace _. Trey, thank you so much for joining us once again.
Michael, always great to join you, man. Lots of stuff to talk about as we inch closer to Vanderbilt and Hawaii. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and as long as I've been following your work, Trey, it doesn't matter if we can go all the way back to I think the first time I heard your name was the Florida credit card scandal. I mean, you are breaking news left and right, and the latest comes with this Bru McCoy situation with Southern Cal and Tennessee, and can you share some of your reporting you did there recently for Outkick?
Yeah, so it was so going back to it, Bru McCoy has been working with Tennessee all summer long. Tennessee was under the impression that he would be eligible to play, that they would make that happen. We know how these transfers get, and we know how schools like to deal with them. NCAA. So Tennessee was kind of under the impression the whole time that maybe they didn't have to file anything with the NCAA. That USC would sign off on a no opportunity form, pretty much meaning signing off to let a player go to another school. Maybe weren't any problems or anything academically or whatnot. And there's a couple of things. I put out an article Monday morning, and you can actually go take a look at the link, and you can see what that form looks like. We fast forward to now. Tennessee is told during the month of July, "Hey, look, we'll sign this thing. We'll make him eligible." USC even released that statement where they say, "Well, we have no problems with him being immediately eligible." And it's like, well, okay. Talking with some compliance people around the Southeastern Conference that would be in the know, and then according to a couple other sources that they've been they were kind of dragging their feet with this thing. Like I think their game plan all along, and I can't speak for USC, was that they would hope the NCAA would get involved where they didn't have to make that decision. They didn't have to sign off on that. Now, mind you, Tennessee, Bru McCoy, whatnot, they were told, they thought that, okay, this thing is going to get signed off on. So that's why you didn't really see any worry out of Tennessee. That's why beginning of fall camp, Josh Heupel was like, okay, this thing will get done, blah, blah, blah. So, finally I was like, we report on stuff all the time, Michael, and sometimes it just kind of clicks and you think of something. And finally, like 1:30 Saturday morning, and I was up, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to send an email to everybody at USC, and I already had a story ready to go for Saturday, but let's see what they say, because I'm very interested in how they're thinking from a university level about this. So we get the statement Saturday morning. We run the story. We understand that we've been told by a bunch of people that there's a form out there that Mike Bone, the USC AD, could sign, the administration could sign. He'd be immediately eligible. And then speaking with some folks out on the West Coast about this, they were hell bent. They were going to make that happen, and so we're finally getting to a point where I call it all hell's breaking loose, because I've never seen, and you've been doing this a long time, I've been doing this a long time. I have never seen an athletic department or a university release a statement in the day and age of social media, or even before social media, but release a statement about a player that was not on their roster, not in their school, hasn't been on that campus since last December, and they released a statement Sunday night, like 8:28, 8:30, and I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? And then I look at it, I was like, okay, well, that's the same statement they gave me Saturday morning. So like, it's not changing anything. So, I wrote an article that came out Monday morning that pretty much details everything that goes into this, and where USC might stand and where Tennessee's at this point, Michael. And it's just crazy, man, because, you know, the biggest part of this is that we should not have to be, and I don't care who it is, I don't care what player, what school, what conference, should not have to be dealing with eligibility issues that go up to the last minute. That go up to we are 5 days away from pretty much first game of the season, and then you're 9 days away from Tennessee taking the field and everybody else taking the field. We shouldn't be dealing with this, man.
Yeah, do you see it as hypocritical at all? I mean, my God, they basically built their current roster on the back of getting all these transfers in, yet letting a guy transfer out. I mean, this has got to hurt the perception of Southern Cal. I would have to think.
I don't think it. I don't think it helps them. I look at in the coaching community and whatnot. You look at their roster. They got a lot of Oklahoma on that roster, and they've got other players from across the country. On
The,
that same roster
the
that
guy
have
from
transferred
Pitt.
in. Right, Jordan Addison, who
Hmm.
transferred in, and he was a one time. Here's the thing that people are kind of held up on, and when it comes to the NCAA. Bru McCoy, we all know, signed with USC, then decided after Cliff Kingsbury took the Arizona Cardinals job. Well, okay, well, I don't want to be here anymore. Let me go to Texas. Okay, so he goes to Texas and goes through spring practice. Then the kid, by his words, he gets homesick. He gets out there and, you're in Austin, Texas. You're a long way away from home. And he decided he wanted to go back. You know, I, I've seen so many different stories of where, like, let's take for instance, like that Jared Dodge kid, the quarterback, who first played at Bowling Green, then transferred to West Virginia, then transferred to Western Kentucky this past spring, participated with them, and then transferred a week ago to Troy, and is now probably going to be the starting quarterback in the season opener against Ole Miss. So what I'm getting is, like, if we're sitting here and we're having to deal with this, and a player like Bru McCoy or any player is having to deal with, then how in the world can a quarterback transfer to four different schools and then be eligible to play immediately this season? Like, it just feels like the rules change for others. And I'll add on to it. There are clauses in this no participation form that USC has kind of held back on, meaning their outside counsel has said, I don't know if that'd be a good idea to sign that or not. Because if you sign it, you're opening yourself up to litigation. You're opening yourself up to saying, okay, so Bru McCoy was in good standing, so he wasn't suspended. But I've spoken with many head coaches this weekend who have reached out, and people in compliance offices that have reached out, and I'm talking colleges all across the country, who said the reason why we do not worry about those forms and we sign them is because we don't want the bad publicity that comes with it if we hold somebody up. It's just not worth it.
Hmm.
So they'll sign them, and even somebody at an SEC school told me that, man, look, we had kids transferring out left and right, but we signed them. We signed the papers. We weren't going to hold them back. There's no sense in it. It's only going to hurt us, if we hold them up, and then we got to go through, NCAA stuff and all that. So, Mike, I think we're at a point right now where USC has said, okay, we're going to let the NCAA deal with it. And by the way, USC, I'm not meaning to crap on USC, but USC, I've been told, is not been as helpful as their statement made it out to be when it comes to paperwork, when it comes to transcripts, when it comes to getting questions answered about this. And then you add on to the fact that, according to some people, that Bru was told he'd be signed, and he'd be able to play. So now we're sitting here at a spot where, and I wrote this morning, I said, I said the NCAA, I'm sorry, USC, now that the NCAA is involved, is going to come out smelling like roses whenever Bru McCoy is finally made eligible, because they can be like, well, look what we did. We helped out. Kid's eligible now. We're good. Everything go away. And it didn't have to be like that, Michael. It could have been signed, could have been over with. I understand why USC is a little hesitant on that, but we've seen this all across the country, and this is no different.
So, based on what you know, based on what you understand, maybe you don't want to call this a prediction, but do you anticipate Bru McCoy being eligible for the season opener, and maybe even more importantly, that's week 2 game at Pitt? What are your thoughts on that?
I would be very surprised if Bru McCoy is not eligible by next Monday. I'd
Okay.
be very, very surprised if he is not eligible, that they get this thing handled within the next 7 days. If they do go past that, you're going to see the Tennessee administration come out. And mind you, Tennessee has never used or called out USC by name during this. Josh Heupel's never gone up and said, well, you know what? We've done everything we can, but darn USC is really holding this thing up. Never said that before. He's had opportunities to. USC comes out, they name Tennessee. And they say, we're not holding up, and I'm paraphrasing, but we're not hindering his immediate eligibility at Tennessee or whatnot. And a lot of that had to do with, USC getting blown up by Tennessee fans, by media members, asking the question. And that's why it surprised me that last night at 8:28 Eastern time, they would do a Sunday news dump and release a statement publicly on Twitter, because now you can't hide behind a media member like me who you gave a statement to. Now you put it out publicly. So the fact that they did put it out publicly, I think it tells me that they feel like the NCAA is going to take care of this thing. And now, they can publicly be like, well, we were good. We did everything we were supposed to. But really, to be honest with you, USC could have been a lot more helpful over the last 3 to 4 months.
You have any idea, Trey, what in the heck is going on there on Rocky Top with Lynn J. Dixon? I mean, he was on the roster for 3 weeks, and now he's not on the team. And I was kind of cautioning people, maybe don't put too much stock into what this kid could bring. But at the same time, I mean, Tennessee's got 4 scholarship running backs now. 2 of them are true freshmen. Have no idea if these kids, while they're getting some good buzz, have no idea if they fully grasp what it takes to be a running back in college with the blocking and everything. How big of a deal is this potentially for the Vols?
I'll use it in WWE terms. Tennessee didn't put it out there, but they wish Lynn J. Dixon the best in his future endeavors. He had a little ankle sprain too, and we know how it is in the Southeastern Conference around college football, man. It's hard for a player to come in, a week and a half into fall camp, brother, and try to act like think he's going to get playing time, because Tennessee is, yeah, they have 4 scholarship running backs, but those 4 scholarship running backs are going to play this year. Dylan Sampson's going to play. Justin Williams is going to play. And we already know Jabari Small and Jalen Wright are. So, honestly, and I don't mean this any slight towards Lynn J. Dixon. And I hope he finds a home, and I hope he rushes for 1,000 yards and does great. But honestly, it's not that big a deal, because this kid was a 4th or 5th string running back. And I think that, I think the biggest story about it is that he was only on campus for a certain amount of time. And I don't mean that as a slight, but the reason why he was a 4th or 5th string running back right now is because he came in halfway through fall camp. This would be a lot different if it was like Zach Evans from Ole Miss coming in, and you knew automatically this kid was going to be a star. Completely different situation. So, well, hey, hope for the best for him, but Tennessee, Tennessee's okay is the best way to put it.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Zach Evans because that's what jumping down to Ole Miss, I wanted to ask you. You did a great piece on Lane Kiffin recently on his faith and his diet. And I had no idea, Trey. He says he's not had alcohol in 17 months, and you can see it. I mean, he looks like a new, lean Lane Kiffin. What can you tell us about that story you did on the head coach there at Ole Miss?
It was interesting. I've known Lane for a while, and he had said something. To kind of give you a little quick backstory. He had said something during his press conference that last Monday about a movie he watched with his daughter, and I just texted him. I was being funny. I said, "Bro," I was like, "What movie, Nicholas Sparks movie, were you watching with your daughter and her friends?" And he got back to me and he told me the movie, and I was like, "Okay, well, I've seen that." And then we got to texting a little bit and talking, and all of a sudden we started talking about life. And I asked him, I was like, "Man, something's changed in you, and I've noticed it. What do you attribute that to?" And he was talking about faith, and he was talking about waking up every morning with a routine. He wasn't a morning person, but finding that balance in life, being able to go to a hot yoga or a hot works class at 6 a.m. in the morning and then be there at the facility, and Bible studies that he does with his staff. And one of the things that stood out, I didn't put that in the article because I couldn't corroborate it with Matt Corral, but I've been told that this is the case. And Lane told me about this, and it doesn't matter that I put this out there. It wasn't barred or anything, but Matt Corral actually, had a quote dry season with Lane Kiffin during the year. And now look, does that mean that Matt Corral or Lane Kiffin didn't go out and have one, IPA or something like that? I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that I think he set a tone of what he was trying to do, and he pointed it out to me. He was like, "Man, look, if I'm doing this and I'm proving this and I'm showing, well, I'm not eating red meat, not eating any bread, no alcohol. I'm here at the facility early in the morning." And what that does is it inspires the players, to try to do things like that and try to be like that. And I just think he's a different person. And a lot of people, I understand, a lot of people are going to be like, okay, I don't know about that. Like, is he just saying that? Is it just, some kind of tactic? I believe the guy. And you can see it. It's not just talk. You can see it in the guy that physically and mentally, he's changed himself. I mean, look at what he looked like 2 years ago compared to what he looks like now. Look at the way that he talks now during a press conference and breaking things. He's calm. He's chill. Now, that doesn't change in the 60 minutes during a game. He's still going to be Lane Kiffin. He's still going to be Lane Kiffin during practices. But I think he's starting to find that balance in his life. And I think that big thing had to do with his daughter moving to Oxford, Mississippi. And he kept telling me, it was funny. He said, "Man, I'm a single parent. I'm raising a child here." And for a minute, that I was like, huh, Lane Kiffin, single parent, raising a kid. Damn, this guy's grown up. It's different. And
Yeah.
I think that was the crux of the story, how much he's changed his life. And, I think that pays off down the road, whether that be at Ole Miss. Told me his daughter is applied to Ole Miss. Would like to go there. I think that kind of speaks a little bit of volume about maybe what his future might be. And he's doing a good job of building something at Ole Miss. And maybe, maybe this is a guy that sticks around for 5, 6 more years. I don't know. You never know with the jobs opening up and what the conferences are going to look like and whatnot. But I just feel like Lane Kiffin is comfortable now at Oxford, and he is willing to show it because he feels comfortable enough now.
Yeah, and I really thought what was interesting about that, Trey, was the fact that, this is all the stuff we don't see of these coaches. Yet, it seems like he's got his life in order in that aspect, and it is clearly paying off for the football program. Just won 10 games. I know they had a heck of a quarterback, but you cannot tell me that Lane Kiffin, this is the best coaching he's ever done. and he's had some, some good coaching in his life. So, having said all that, what do you make of this? Because he's going to have to coach his ass off again with losing three coordinators and losing a lot of pieces, but bringing pieces in. He's got to coach these guys up in a hurry.
It's going to be very interesting to me to watch Ole Miss this year because I have a hard time believing that this squad can duplicate what last year did, meaning Sugar Bowl, 10 wins. They got a quarterback situation with Altmaier and Dart down there. I'm interested to see what that looks like. I can see them both playing like in the first game against Troy. Um, but then I take a look at things and I think that Ole Miss has pieces on offense to be explosive again. I think it's going to look like one of those teams where they're going to try to put up 40 points per game and beat you that way. Defense, I mean, running back wise, they lost a lot, but they've also brought in, some talent. I mean, Zach Evans leading the way, in my opinion. Defense, you lost some key players on defense, but I feel like they did a good job handling the portal. I feel like that they have talent that was maybe second string last year that can fill some gaps along the defensive line. Linebacker is going to be key for me with them. So I look at Ole Miss as a whole, and yes, I do think it's going to be difficult to do that, but I think that they can get close to it. I think this is an 8 to 9 win team, and they could knock off somebody like they did last year and somehow get close to that 9-10 win mark. Um, but I think it's all going to depend on, like, I feel like Arkansas is going to give the biggest challenge in the West this year,
Mm.
besides A&M. And I want to see what A&M does, with their quarterbacks and how they play at the wide receiver position before I go all in on A&M because I feel like they were prematurely ranked. I don't feel like they should have been in that spot. But I think when you look at Ole Miss, I think they're kind of right where we thought they would be. And they've got some very key games in the first month of the season that I think we're going to see, okay, maybe this squad has something for 2022.
Who do you think is going to be better, though, Ole Miss or Mississippi State? Because I'm very high on Mississippi State. I think for the life of me, I can't understand why so many people are overlooking them right now.
I love Will Rogers, and I love what he can do in this offense. I also like what they've done on defense. There were times last year where you look at this squad and you're like, okay, this doesn't feel like a Mike Leach type of defensive unit or team in a sense. Look at turnovers last year. You know, I look at Will Rogers and I think I know what they're going to do, and they're going to try to score, you know, 35, 40 points a game, and Leach is going to have Rogers throwing the ball 40 times, and you'll see what comes out of it. But I feel like that Mississippi State is kind of the slept upon team in the state of Mississippi. To be honest with you, I think that they're going to be the team this year that beat somebody they're not supposed to beat. They're going to be the team that does the same thing they did to A&M last year. And A&M did have the best quarterback situation with Calzada, but they did beat Alabama. But then what happens? Mississippi State comes to town, and they knock off the Aggies in College Station. So I feel like Mississippi State can be one of those teams this year that catches somebody by surprise. And maybe that leads to 8 wins this year, something along those lines. I just feel like they have talent on both sides of the ball that can help out. I don't think it's like SEC West winning talent, but they've got talent to beat some folks that maybe they don't think they can.
Now you talked about A&M and Arkansas. It's funny because I swear I got this written down. Who do you think is going to have a better season between those two?
I love KJ Jefferson. I love KJ Jefferson. I love watching him play.
Yeah.
Yes, it's going to be hard, obviously, to replace Traylon Burks. I get that, but they've got enough playmakers at wide receiver to potentially make something happen. Bring in Hazelwood from Oklahoma. Maybe you're able to get a downfield threat to open things up. I like their defense, led by Bumper Pool at linebacker. I think he's aggressive. I think that, to me, the biggest win for Arkansas in the offseason was keeping Barry Odom around, because of that defense, because it's going to help out what Kendall Browse is trying to do with the offense. I just think when you have that stability on both sides of the ball and bringing back both your coordinators, and then you got a quarterback like KJ Jefferson, who, let's be honest, his game is only going to get better from last year, and he's able to run the football, but he's also got a cannon for an arm. Like, this is a team that to me is going to be dangerous. I look at A&M, Michael, and right now I don't know if I trust them or not. And here's the reason. I have got to see something out of Haynes King if that's who they go with. If they don't, we've seen what Max Johnson can do at times at LSU, what he did. So I think he could be a quarterback that could help out, Texas A&M. But if Jimbo decides to go with Haynes, okay, let's see what this kid actually has. And the biggest thing about this too is Jimbo. This is the year where he better go out and prove something. I'm not talking about just beating Alabama. You're in year 5 of your program. You've got to start proving that you belong in the Western Division, can make a run towards Atlanta and start fighting. And the biggest thing to me is you better have both quarterbacks ready, because we saw what happened last season. Once Haynes went out and against Colorado, things kind of just went downhill. This shouldn't be a 4-loss team in College Station. And I get the SEC's good. We'll see what they look like against Miami that third week. That's a game they should win. The biggest game is going to come, when they go play Arkansas and Arlington. Then we're going to figure out, the good thing about it is we're going to figure out which team between those two, Arkansas and A&M, can find out real quick within the first month, which one's going to stand out and potentially have a good year, because I just feel like A&M, even though they have the running backs, even though they've got downfield threats, I feel like they're damn solid on the defensive line. I think maybe they can get a freshman or two to help them out there. But man, you got to prove it now, and it's easy for us to be skeptical of Jimbo Fisher because he hasn't really done that yet in College Station.
What do you think, Trey, of all this back and forth between Beamer and Mark Stoops, Kentucky? I mean, all of a sudden, this game is like must-see TV, and I love the fact that Mark Stoops he's calling everybody damn out. Now, I know he's walked back his Beamer comments, but we call bullshit on that one. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I love it. I mean, bring more juice to the games. I mean, let's be honest. 3 years ago, we'd have been sitting back and saying, South Carolina, Kentucky, juice. Like, that's going to be a game we're interested in. But I feel like, yeah, because South Carolina is intriguing to me because I want to see how Spencer Rattler does with this offense. And I know that's the obvious answer, but this is a South Carolina team that played technically 5 different quarterbacks last year, if you had Joyner in the bowl game. So I think they're going to be stable enough at running back. I think they're going to have a few wide receivers that can help Spencer out down the field. I think on the defensive side of the ball is maybe where they take the next step. And they could be a surprise team. And when I say surprise team, 8 wins, something like that, maybe. It all depends on what their quarterback's going to do, because, you're not dealing with Zeb Nolan or Jason Brown or, I think this is a football team that has a little bit more stability this year. And I love the comments. I love Shane Beamer having fun. Shane Beamer is a genuine dude. Like, what you see out of Beamer, that's who he is. He's not putting on a show. And I think that's what I like about him the most as an SEC head coach. And you know what? Stoops is the same way, man. If Stoops doesn't like something, he's going to call you out. I mean, look at that mess with Calipari. Like, he wasn't afraid to stick up for his program. So I just feel like, that's going to be a fun game, because both of those teams, like Kentucky, like, this is like the year for Kentucky. Like, I know they lost Wandale Robinson, and I get that completely. But if we're breaking it down, they get Chris Rodriguez back, let's just say week 3, week 4, which, by the way, if Kentucky can get past Florida week 2 without Chris Rodriguez, they're going to be fine in the month of September. They don't play anybody good besides Florida.
Mm.
So I think when we take a look at that and break it down, I think that the matchup between South Carolina and Kentucky, that could be one of those pivotal games in the East when it comes to, an 8-win or a 9-win season for both of them. So, but fans in Lexington, man, they've got high expectations and they really don't care if their coach starts going off on Beamer. And you know what? Shane Beamer is going to clap right back. And you know what? It's more attention for the programs and it leads to an exciting season.
All right, last thing for you, Trey. We were talking TJ Finley before we hopped on here. Thoughts on, everything I'm hearing, he is the leader of that offense. They're gonna go with TJ Finley, who of course Auburn and LSU fans have seen some of them. They've seen enough of them, but that doesn't mean players don't progress. But Brian Harsin has got to go with the right guy for that team, and only he can make that call. But I can just already see it playing out, Trey, where if TJ Finley comes out here and struggles, particularly against Penn State or Missouri, and costs them a game, I think all that negativity is going to get, why the hell we bring in Zach Calzada if we ain't going to play him? And this, is he walking a fine line here with TJ Finley potentially?
He understands behind the scenes and quietly that he's got to do something this year at Auburn. And whichever quarterback is going to be the one that can be a playmaker and actually do something for his. Remember, Calzada, he missed a good amount of work, recovering from surgery. So, and to be honest with you, Zach Calzada, I know he'll always have that Alabama game on his record, but he's an average quarterback, and that's not a knock. It just is what it is. And maybe something happens and he comes in 4th game of the year and he starts blowing it up. Good for him. But for right now, I've heard the same things about TJ Finley. He's been taking the ones. There's been times where Zach Calzada's been taking the threes and working with the third team. So, this is a monumental year for Brian Harsin if he is going to stay around and be a head coach in the Southeastern Conference. And 6 wins is not going to cut it. 8 wins, okay, you're good. 8 wins, you're fine. You're building something. Come back another year. You've got a quarterback on your roster you can build around. But man, that 6 to 7 wins, we could be dealing with another situation at Auburn, or Mr. Yellowwood, Mr. Rain down there wants to get involved again, and things go south. And I'll say this for Brian Harsin. For him to still be the coach at Auburn, for him to deal with all that bullshit, excuse my language, that he went through, I think it speaks volumes to how much he cares about his football team, but how much he also wasn't going to be embarrassed and have his name dragged through the mud. So they've got a good staff down there. I'm just very interested in how they make this quarterback decision. And I think Finley's going to be the guy. And if he is, we're going to find out real quick what this Auburn team is made of, because the Penn State Nittany Lions are coming to town, right there around week 3. And anything can happen, but, we're going to see real quick if they made the right decision at quarterback. And the good thing about it is they got a little bit of time when it comes to opponents to kind of figure out that quarterback situation. So very interested to see which way Auburn goes here long term. Maybe not just week 1, but long term at that position.
All right, Trey Wallace, cannot thank you enough, senior SEC reporter for Outkick. You got anything to plug or anything for the audience to be aware of that you got dropping this week, Trey?
Yeah, no, just working on a couple things that I think folks will be interested in. We did get out an article this on Monday morning, just talking about the different things that are going on with Bru McCoy, and maybe some things maybe fans are missing, but also some things that I think USC's missing. But we're plugging away. I'm getting ready for the season. We're going to start on Thursday night at Tennessee Ball State, just because I live 6 miles from campus, and then I'm going to get on down to Atlanta for Georgia versus Oregon on that Saturday, and then it's going to be Austin, Texas the next weekend. So it's I couldn't get the Hawaii travel budget approved to go cover Vanderbilt, but hey, but other than that, man, college football is here. We're rolling into it, and some big things are coming at Outkick, and always appreciate you having me on. You're absolutely killing it. Love the show. Listen to every podcast, and thanks for having me, man.
Anytime, my friend. Thank you so much.
Be well.